I'm gonna list these 10 facts from the least to the most obscure, starting with this black cube underneath Malenia's arena. As one of the most popular bosses in Elden Ring, over 10 million players have known defeat, but only a few have ventured beneath them. This black cube has been underneath Malenia's arena ever since the game was first released, and while it isn't unusual for FromSoft to hide things inside of boss arenas, it's usually only done in the form of a body double. What we have here instead is a massive black cube, and nobody knows what's hiding inside. My guess are Malenia's clones in her second phase, but there's only one way to know for sure. Let's see what happens when you go inside.
Hey, you're finally awake.
War Thunder is the most comprehensive vehicle game ever made, and when I'm not forcing speedrunners to fight for money, you can find me in the sky dropping bombs and making moms. The graphics and sound effects really make the gaming experience so much better, and it was super easy to get started. You can fly every aircraft using nothing more than a mouse and keyboard, but it's not just aircraft. There are over 2,500 tanks, planes, helicopters, and ships from 10 major nations in a vehicle collection spanning over 100 years of development. Every vehicle is detailed and modeled down to its individual components, and no matter what your playstyle is, there's something for everyone, whether that's intense PvP battles or more tactical experience. The best part about War Thunder is the fact that it's free, so come join over 70 million players and try it out for yourself on PC, PlayStation, or Xbox. Although Malenia is known for her difficulty, no boss is more unfair than pre-patch Radahn. This boss is so terrifying that a special mod had to be developed just to allow epileptic players to fight him without risk of seizure. And you can find this mod on Mihai's Nexus page if you happen to be one of these players. While everyone was happy to see Radahn nerfed, what you probably haven't seen is his cut dialogue. I am Radahn, born of Redmane Rodigan and Renala of the Full Moon, a lion bred for battle. There's also a bit of dialogue from Miquella as well. Now comes the Age of Eden. Beginning here, love encompasses all. No living thing will be denied, no deed censured. I am ready to embrace the whole of it, Radahn, my promised consort. It's unknown why FromSoft decided to remove this dialogue from Radahn, but what we do know is that the DLC plot twist was foreshadowed 2 years ago. We first learn about Mohg's tragic story in the sewers of Langdell, shunned by his own family alongside his brother and the other Omens. After escaping captivity, Mohg tries to establish a dynasty of his own, taking Miquella as his god and himself as the god's consort. On our journey through the DLC, we learn that Mohg was actually charmed by Miquella all along. But did you know that the effect Miquella had on Mohg was visible long before we even entered the DLC? After you defeat Mohg, in his final moments, he reaches out above with the same animation we do when we get charmed by Miquella. This is hinting at the fact that he was being controlled the entire time, and while this was obviously intentional, what FromSoft didn't anticipate was this programming error in the Divine Beast's AI. If you fought this boss, then you'll notice that it changes phases in sync with the music, but due to a coding error in the Dancing Lion's AI, this functionality is actually broken. Because of the unusual way FromSoft coded a random follow-up, this function has the possibility of returning any number between 20,000 and 20,001. This includes decimals, and when the game checks to see what action the boss should perform next, 20,001.99903 is also the equivalent of 20,002, which is the same animation as the phase change. The odds of this happening are around 0.05%, which is slightly more rare than seeing the second phase of a Flower Guardian. Flower Guardians suck at their jobs. They've sworn to protect the Erd Tree, but oftentimes find themselves in need of protection instead. Because of this, you probably had no idea about their second phase, but thanks to their pact with the Erd Tree, they can recover their HP completely, growing in size and trading in their sword spears for spike clubs. While they're in this form, they also gain access to a very rare attack, and if you're lucky enough to get hit by it, you'll be thrust in the air and sent to meet Marika. Now that you're finally at peace, we can talk about the Pumpkinheads, who've chosen to stifle their panic within the confines of their helmets. This piece comes at a price though. because using a swarm pot on a pumpkin head will cause them to enter a fit of rage, smashing the ground beneath them and damaging anything in their path. The reason for this is because their head is covered in armor, and the buzzing of the flies gets intensified, amplifying the sound and causing them to lose their minds. No one's as crazy as Midra though, who has one of the most oppressive boss themes in the entire game, mainly thanks to FromSoft finally finding the base button. While you were going insane dying to Midra, you might have missed this subtle appearance of the Frenzy Merchant's melody in his theme. This Song of Despair plays for only a few seconds, but it's very clear that a faint echo is trying to manifest itself. This echo expresses the voice and pain of the merchants, only to be crushed by the powerful bass of Midra's madness. One who doesn't hide his origin but instead proudly presents it is Mesmer the Impaler. His soundtrack echoes the same musical patterns as his father, Rodigan, who is also Red of Main and religiously follows the principles of the Golden Order. That is, at least until Phase 2 drags him into the shadows. And speaking of shadows, Marika's shadow Malekith is hiding a secret of his own. By now, we're all aware that Gurranq is actually Malekith in disguise, but when you were fighting him, did you notice this? That is not the sound of cloth. In fact, it's actually the sound of metal. And in retrospect, FromSoft went the extra mile by adding this small detail to foreshadow the Phase 2 reveal, hinting that there's more to Gurranq than meets the eye. While we're able to hear Malekith coming from a mile away, he probably wouldn't hear us if we were using the Assassin's Gambit Ashefor, because it silences your footsteps and allows you to interact with the game in some very unintended ways. Against Morgott, for example, you can enter his arena without being noticed at all. And once you've gotten close enough for him to finally notice you, the Unseen Form spell can be used to make his targeting view even smaller, allowing you to hide behind the throne undetected. From here, you can cast Poison Mist without alerting him, and because you haven't physically hit Morgott, he never ends up transitioning into Phase 2. Instead, after 15 minutes of inhaling toxic fumes, Morgott's Great Rune is finally yours. It doesn't stop there though, and you can take things even further by turning some 2v1 fights into 1v1 fights. In the Hero's Tomb, if you throw a knife at the wall to get Ordovis's attention, then you can use the Assassin's Gambit Ashefor to lure the other knight into the corner. If you do this correctly, then you can have an entire fight while Ordovis just stands there. While Ordovis's eyesight is certainly a debuff, Crucible Knights and other enemies can secretly gain buffs alongside the player. The Lord of Blood's Exaltation, for example, raises attack power whenever blood loss occurs in the vicinity. And if you were to wear this talisman while fighting Mohg, you would both gain a damage boost. If you were to take this talisman off, however, and still proc a bleed, then the Lord of Blood will still gain that boost, implying that he himself is wearing the talisman. Cleanrot Knights also gain damage boosts anytime they land multiple hits in a row, meaning that they are all wearing talismans too, only this time it's the Winged Insignia talisman. Worst of all, Crucible Knights seem to be wearing Crucible Knight talismans, as they all take reduced damage from critical hits and headshots. It doesn't stop there though, and the next time you cast an Erdtree incantation, you better make sure there isn't a Crucible Knight nearby, or you'll both be fighting with Golden Vow. And that's everything. How many facts did you know? Leave a comment below and don't forget to subscribe because we're almost at 200K. Shoutouts to War Thunder for sponsoring this video. Don't forget to check him out for free on PC, PlayStation, or Xbox and receive a huge bonus pack using my link below.